welcome to the Productivity Podcast. We've got our old friend Simon Fraser, Vice President of Customer Experience Strategy in Moment, returning for an episode. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
Good. Two Simons. I've been in too many places recently where there's been three Simons, and it just becomes way too confusing. But anyway, just the two today. So we're going to have a chat today, remind people about In Moment, what they do, then just talk about some of the new features and cool things that you guys are thinking about. Talk about ChatGPT, because we've been talking about that offline and some of the crazy stuff that people are doing, and I'm sure we're all experimenting with it. I've not quite got my head around it, but yeah, we'll see where that conversation takes us. So just remind the listeners, for those that may have not tuned into the various episodes you've been on, what In Moment do and a bit of what you've been up to kind of as an organisation over the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, hopefully as a result of this podcast today, that your listeners will go back and have a listen to all those old episodes that we've recorded. So In Moment is a leading experience improvement company. So we've been established globally for a number of years now. In the last few years that we've been through a pretty steady stream of acquisitions of different companies that have helped support our move into different markets and our move into different sectors. Ultimately, what we're up to is to ensure that our clients deliver positive business outcomes as a result of better listening to their customers, their employees, the market, and focusing on the moments that matter and really drive change.
So old world would have been all about surveys, and I'm sure we've all had them via email, till receipts in the old days. Yeah. People stood outside even with clipboards. So is that still the primary metric, or are you starting to think about different ways? I know the market's evolving at pace as all technology does.
Yeah, I think surveys are one data input into businesses' understanding of where to focus on. So I'm not going to suggest, and In Moment doesn't suggest, that surveys are dead or that they don't have a role. I think there's a recognition that the market got highly saturated in terms of surveys, but also whilst there are sophisticated ways in which you can run and utilize metrics and send out surveys and do that in a gamified way and utilizing all the different ways in which we connect with brands, there are more modern ways in which we can listen. Some of it will be direct from the consumer. Some of it might be because they are leaving reviews on different sites, or they're in social media, Instagram and the likes, talking about brands. But there's also the internal data as well. So that could be, for example, through analyzing chat transcripts, or it could be through connecting to the voice of the employee and what they're thinking that a business should do. But there's also, and I think this is critical, that you can tell an awful lot about the experiences that you're delivering to your customers through the data that you've got in your systems anyway, operationally and financially. All of this combined gives you the full holistic picture, if you like. There isn't one piece, and it's certainly not surveys, that can tell you everything that you need to do. It's through combining and integrating all these different systems that you no doubt have in place already, with surveys being just one of the inputs into that experience of improvement.
Got it. Okay. So a much more rounded, holistic view.
Yeah, and I think I was thinking about this earlier, that I've been in customer experience for around 12 years now.
You don't look old enough.
I know. Well, I'm only 18, so it was remarkable stuff. But it was, to your point, it was about paper receipts. It was about this was very new in 12 years ago in terms of being asked for feedback. It isn't new now. If you were to go into your inbox, you'll no doubt find multiple requests.
Emails to delete.
Well, we'll come on to why people still provide feedback via surveys, because I think that is an important topic to touch on. But it was very much single channel. It is now, if you're talking about customer experience, there are different survey types. For example, you've got your always on, you've got your triggered, you've got your digital intercepts, but you've also got, there's a different types of interaction surveys, journey surveys, and relationship surveys. And even there's a fourth type, which is strategic surveys, where you're being compared against your competitors to understand which journeys you need to focus on. So single channel, long form surveys, 15-minute surveys about one experience, that really isn't the future. It's about having different types which are well suited to the experience that you're trying to understand, and ensuring that you're also giving the respondent a good experience in providing their feedback as well, because otherwise they're not going to do that again. And they may also take away a bad perception of the experience that you're delivering, because the survey is part of that brand experience as well. There are still too many examples, and you'll see this on LinkedIn, of errors and things, funny ways of trying to ask people to provide feedback that don't make sense. So we need to look after that as well.
Good. So markets broadening, clearly becoming much more targeted and focused in terms of the way we're asking for feedback and the people we're asking. So clearly that hopefully drives a higher response rate and more intelligent information that comes back. Yes. So how are you as an organisation then evolving the technology to kind of deal with that?
Well, I'll talk about one example of thinking about why are you asking for feedback, and why is the customer wanting to engage in that. If you think about many of the times, and especially digital or through maybe contact center experiences, that there's a reason why that customer's had that interaction. It's because they need something, that there's something that they don't understand. So in Moment's got built-in real-time text analytics in our surveys. So we're recognizing when a respondent is talking about a certain topic, and we can also understand whether it's something that they are finding easy or not. So we're actually using the text analytics to then spin off. Could be the questions that are asked off the back of that. But what I really like is we've got a solution called Rapid Resolution Engine. You could also think about it as solving in survey. So if I'm saying to my bank, I'm really struggling to understand how to set up my standing order, and that is the challenge that you're explaining in your survey, why not use that as an opportunity to provide them the answers to that particular challenge? Well, actually, watch this video, come to this link and have a look at the steps in which we can help you support that. So actually using the survey as a solution to solve for your customers' problems, I think is very different to, I can see you've got a problem, but I still got 15 minutes of questions that I really need to ask you. I'll give you another example of thinking about being more purposeful in terms of listening. How many times have you been on a website and a prompt has come up asking you for a bit of feedback about your experience?
Normally just at the wrong time. So I'm about to click the button, I'm about to put something in my basket or scroll through, and this thing comes up and you're like, ugh.
So in that case, that brand should have enough data about how people operate on their website to know that there are inopportune moments to interrupt a customer. On the flip side, and in a more positive take, for example, one of the bits of work, apologies if I've talked about this on your podcast before, is for an outdoor clothing company who, by understanding their different personas, understanding, in their case, it was Adobe Analytics, how people behave, you can trigger very targeted surveys to a particular type of customer.
Yeah.
So if you've logged in, they should know Simon Heddo, and the way that you're behaving means that you're here for a particular reason. You've clicked on 3 outdoor coats, maybe to replace the hoodie you're wearing at the moment. And we can recognize the fact that you've clicked on 3 outdoor coats, but you've not actually put anything into the basket. So rather than ask at that point, would you recommend brand X? What is it that you are struggling to do? because they'll understand from their behavioral analytics, from their analytics online, that this is a behavior that is going to lead to you not converting. So this is the perfect moment to try and understand that more, see if they can help you with that particular challenge you're facing online, but also be very targeted as to the type of information they're wanting to get back from you. This is not a relational moment. This is an opportunity to try and understand what is it that you need help on, in order that you can then go and buy their products. That is very different to thinking about surveys 12 years ago, which was about creating metrics and tracking numbers and all of that. So this is a very different world to over a decade ago.
And I seem to have as well lately a lot more probably follow-ups with an email if it's someone who's got an account which you've left this in your basket. So if you've been browsing and you think, oh, I'll add that, and then you just disappear off the website. I think John Lewis won, certainly one of, is it Nike or Size, one of the training companies.
Yeah.
Again, you've left something behind, just that prompt of trying to find out, well, you must have liked it enough to put it in the basket.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned behavioral analytics earlier, or behavioral economics, that, again, I think how we think about behaviors of customers and employees is a lot more sophisticated than it was. So, I don't think nudge theory was particularly talked about a decade ago, but most businesses are utilizing that to think about how can we intelligently use any opportunity to message a customer. And ultimately, a survey is one of those messages. So really think deeply about how you're setting it up, for what purpose, and what is the outcome that it's going to deliver. So
ChatGPT, let's tackle that monster. So I've had a play with it. We were talking off air. I'm amazed it's free, and clearly there'll be some commercial charge, or you're saying sponsorship, or businesses paying for it at some point. It's interesting. I suppose from a personal point of view, I struggle with some of the user cases at the moment. Is it going to take over the world of coding? I mean, probably, but I just struggle to get to that world. I've put some stuff I've written in there and it's rewritten it. It becomes some of the stuff a bit thespian. So,
not your typical language.
Not my typical language. Yeah, probably more educated and well written and punctuated and spelt. So I can see a real use for that. I can see, with all these things, downsides. You're going to get people taking exams who are almost going to have their exams written by ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff that comes with intelligent tech. But I think there's probably more upside than downside is where my head's at the moment, to be proven. So is that in your thinking in a moment?
Yeah, so we've just announced that we have a solution which integrates into ChatGPT and back out, which is called Smart Summary Generator. And to your point, if you think about how much time businesses take to, however clear the reporting is, however targeted, you need to focus on this. Sometimes you need to turn that into a story. What Smart Summary Generator does is we'll look at it. It passes over some data back into Chat GPT and then back into In Moments XI platform, which summarizes what customers are talking about that they like and what customers are talking about that they don't like. So that can be at a unit level, it can be at channel level, it can be at a brand level. That is amazing. And to actually then display that both in the reporting, but also in screens, back at the restaurant or in the head office, showing this is what customers are talking about at the moment. You're not having to employ someone to create that analysis. You're actually using the XI platform and, from a foundational point of view, Chat GPT to provide a smart summary of what it is that customers are raising in their feedback, which I think takes us to a whole new level.
And I assume, not knowing how it works, that it just becomes more and more intelligent.
Well, I mean, Chat GPT will become more intelligent, but you've hit on another facet of what we're doing. So if you think about our text analytics runs off machine learning, supervised machine learning. So it's looking at all this data and we are helping it get better. But obviously the more volume that comes in is meaning that the tagging, the coding is becoming more accurate. Now, typically you'd have to be inputting all these surveys in. So you're reliant on volume coming in, which is naturally has come through the surveys or chat or social reviews, all the other different data sources that might come in. Chat GPT can create you fake survey, fake reviews, which you could then input into your platform to hone your models. So what might have taken weeks to get that volume through, you can then set the chat off to go and create that volume for you. I mean, that again is a major step forward. That
takes me a completely different way. But things like, does that then, for things like TripAdvisor, create some jeopardy that almost you could get Chat GPT creating false recommendations? I don't know. I can kind of see. Well, there'll be devious ways to use it because people will look for it.
There are always devious ways to use human.
You could do. You could do it now. To
provide reviews. I'll give you a use case, which I don't think is cheating. It's not about review, but it's about. So I've recently been through a process of setting my team goals for the year.
Via Chat GPT, we're going to find out now.
I knew broadly the 6 themes and the 6 areas that I want the team to focus on, but I was struggling to make them sharp enough, and smart enough. So all I did was make smart goal out of. Then I typed in my information, and then it churned out and actually gave milestones underneath as to what needs to be hit in order to hit those goals. And it's 90% of it I could then just put over and put into our HR system.
Did you take the thespian out?
I did, the thus.
One of these bots must be Shakespeare in disguise, but that's, in my mind, how I envisage using it. So you've got a bunch of text or a message to get across, and you can sit there for hours trying to wordcraft, reword, exactly. So actually chuck it in there, see what comes out. If you've then got 10 minutes worth of work to finesse it, fine.
Exactly. It saved me having to it got me there quicker and I would say smarter than I otherwise would have been. So I was able to close off that task and then move on to something else. Yeah. So it is going to save time. On your point around education, I know in my son's school that someone's been caught out having used Chat GPT to create their essay.
Yep.
And the teacher's come along and said, I know you have done this, and I've got this solution here that is looking to see whether that has been created by artificial intelligence. There's
anti-plagiarism software, isn't there, as well, and all that kind of stuff.
So you could argue, on one hand, things are going to get easier, but on another hand, this will create new solutions that need to come in to manage the new solutions that are being used in that way. I mean, I was very transparent with my team that I'd use Chat GPT in that. And I think we should probably look to be as transparent as we are when we're doing that sort of thing.
It shouldn't be a taboo by any stretch, because it's a support tool, isn't it? I suppose, where's that line? And we've seen some of it with the explosion of the internet over the last 20 years, isn't it? Of real person, real thoughts, real feelings versus computer running it, because you kind of stray in that Terminator world all of a sudden of the machines are thinking and feeling and taking over, and we're all waiting for Arnie to come out the dust again to help us.
Yeah, good old Arnie. It's interesting thinking. I mean, we're talking about this almost like the back end of using AI and chat to make sense of what is being said. There is also, and it's worthwhile saying, Chat GPT only really took off as a topic around sort of November of last year. This is, it's one of the fastest growing
Well, if you think where it's come from now, so
yeah.
we're recording end of March, November, 5-ish months. Imagine where it's going to be in another 5 months, 5 years' time. It's
Well,
going to keep moving.
Chat GPT-3, there's 4's about to come. People are already talking about 5. I think where it is yet to be totally understood is around experience improvement, so experience design. So the example that has been shared is around, you might go to a travel agent, you might speak to an independent travel agent that, hey, I want to go to travel across Europe this summer. I've got 3 weeks. I want to start here. I want to end there. You might bring in an independent person, or you might spend a lot of time poring over books and maps. But actually, in this world, you can say, I've got these dates. This is where I want to go to. Give me the best journey, the best experience that covers these 3 things, and off you go. And then it designs a holiday for you. It's not got to the stage where it's going to book that holiday for you, but I would have thought that would be,
It won't be far off. Won't be far off.
No.
And it's like the guy, again, we were talking offline. I can't remember his name, but I'll find it. There's a guy on Twitter who gave ChatGPT the challenge of start me a business, earn me some money. You've got $100. I will do, as long as it's lawful, whatever you ask me to do. So puts it in. It then comes back and says, buy this domain. This is the logo I've designed I want you to use. Buy these products, put them on sale for this price. And he does daily updates. So again, you can see people doing all sorts of stuff, business, playing the stock market with it, all sorts of stuff. There'll be winners and losers as ever in this kind of emerging technology.
I just think that this is not the metaverse, or the metaverse as it's now being described. Point 2, the metaverse felt like technology which wasn't quite there, trying to solve a problem that didn't really exist. I think everybody can immediately see the practical use of this, that it is solving for something, whether everything, the rumors are that, Google have been thinking about this themselves for a while, but have held back from implementing it because they're worried about the impact on society. Well, the door is open.
The gloves are off now, aren't they? Yeah. They'll be rapidly deploying whatever theirs is called.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting times we could be on the cusp of the next type of revolution, or in 5 months' time, it could all be dead and buried because something
will come back in 5 months' time.
Something else has happened. Just like the metaverse. Okay, so that's good. I think balanced conversation. There's clearly going to be some great things come out of this. There's going to be some stuff where it makes people tighten up. But for me, I'm on it's more positive than negative side at the moment.
Agreed, and I think in general, AI, and I'm thinking here in particular around its understanding of what customers or people mean when they're talking about and using certain language.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wanted to briefly talk about, is that, if you're thinking about how text analytics has typically worked, that you can create a set of rules, and if these rules are met, then the customer, the employee, is talking about this topic, and then you can understand sentiment. Sentiment from an AI perspective, sentiment is very well understood by that. So AI can come in and measure that. But also it's what's implicit in what customers are talking about, where we've added in additional machine learning to measure, for example, emotion or effort or intent. So let me talk briefly about intent. So customers revealing a lot in their comments, to actually then use the machine learning, supervised machine learning, to recognize that customer is talking in a way that suggests that there is a high likelihood that customer is going to leave. So it's going to, that customer is going to churn. To then use that text analytics to open cases or to feed into CRM systems to say, actually, there's a flag on Simon Heddo.
Probably. That's for another podcast.
Add another flag to Simon Heddo. And therefore, we need to proactively do something because Simon Hedo is implying there is the risk.
Yeah.
You can also then, once you've got, if you think lots of Simon Hedos.
But that must be big. So my mind immediately jumps to kind of telco world.
Yes.
So you'll see me every 24 months typically now. So you've got one time every 2 years to get me back into my contract. There's always new iPhones, always new offers. The market is saturated with online deals as well now. So that must be really valuable in that type of world of high purchase price, but infrequent shop.
Yes. And it's also, if you think about it, that you represent lots of other people as well. So if you're talking about your experiences and you're thinking of switching provider, that implies that there are others who are also, so then reaching out proactively to that wider set of personas is also something that can be done. So once you've just got that one bit of information around a customer's intention, then you're not being reactive to it. You can be proactive and actually go and open up a case, or as I say, go and think about how we're going to differently market to Simon and equivalents of Simon who are a similar segmentation, has a similar behavior, and or is at a similar moment along their contract journey as well. So if you can piece together all these different bits of information, you can be far more targeted.
And you've mentioned, talking about machine learning, you've mentioned the word supervised. Yeah. So why is that? Is that any different than machine learning, or?
Yeah, so supervised basically means that there are human experts who are checking it and validating it and maybe course correcting it or nudging it in a different direction as well. So yeah, it's not Skynet. It's not making up its own mind. We're ensuring that we've got our experts in text analytics checking it and validating that what it is seeing is correct and meaningful and therefore valid to take action off the back of it.
Good. So it sounds like you're busy with lots of stuff. Anything else you want to cover off?
I just want to talk for the last bit around. We began this conversation thinking about single channel experiences. I think that it was only early on in I think 2012, 2013. I was having a conversation with Debenhams about click and collect. I mean, that was the first time really that e-commerce crossed over into the world of retail. So customers don't stay in their lanes when they are talking about their experiences. So one of the things that InMoment specializes in is around layering in different models. So you might have a retail model, you might have an e-commerce model, but we've got 30, 40 different models that are relevant or need to be in the consideration set of InMoment and our clients when we're thinking about text analytics. So if you can take in some data, push it through all those 30 or 40 different models, we can come up with a code frame that is custom to you, but takes advantage of all the different learnings from all these different channels and industries, because as I say, customers don't stay in one lane. That also means, and we've talked on one of our podcasts before about diversity, equity and inclusion. Yeah. So we've created a code frame, which is that. So actually, if that is something that your customers, if we're talking about accessibility, then we can layer that in. If customers are talking about sustainability, then we can bring that in. So this means that you've got the sort of widest reach you can have in terms of understanding what customers are talking about. And I think is recognizes that there are lots of things on a customer's mind when they're providing feedback, and to get as wider coverage as possible in an accurate way is something that's really important. If you think back to ChatGPT again, it might have been that previously we would need to wait until, if the program is, say, just started, it'll take a little while to figure out what needs to come in. Well, actually, we could be proactive around that as well and generate different comments or bring in all sorts of different data in order to understand that. And again, I don't know how aware you are of consumer duty. So
quick synopsis
of consumer duty. So all financial services organizations by July of this year need to be able to provide evidence of their thinking or their changes or their planning around delivering fair outcomes.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on one of the others, didn't we? Yeah, got it.
So that's landing in July. And probably the keenest area around that is thinking about communication to the customers. So it's not like it's generally about interactions with the contact center or the branch or a website. It's about what marketing communication goes out to that customer. Mm-hmm. It's about what legal documents go out to that customer. That is also something that text analytics can recognize and understand and rate in terms of, actually, are you going to pass the regulation through that documentation? Or in fact, are you being super unclear as to what it is that your customer is signing up to?
Yeah.
So those are important, critical moments. Again, it's not something you're ingesting a survey in. You're looking at the material, the emails, the scripts in other types of marketing activity, and testing to see whether it covers all the bases and is delivered in an understandable and accessible way for consumers. Again, I think that's not something that we would have thought of 10 years ago as to what an experience is. And I think that's really important. So we've got to keep on looking at different ways in which we can measure all those different types of experiences, make sense of them, and deliver better outcomes.
Amazing. So lots changed in 10 years, as it always does, but clearly since November, ChatGPT changing the game. Who knows what the next kind of 5-10 years will bring. Again, if people want to reach out for a conversation, where's the best place for them to find you?
I'd say probably on LinkedIn. If you search for Simon Fraser, then you will find me there in moment.
Brilliant. Good to chat again, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Simon.